Welcome to Sundays with the Bushes.
Welcome to another episode of Sundays with the Bushes. How y'all doing out there in Facebook Live land? Have you been blessed? Have you been doing well? Have you been staying cool? It's been hot here in New Jersey for all of those who may be viewing us from other areas. It's been hot. It's a heat wave going on.
Today I want to start off by saying, like I did last week, thanks to everyone who have joined our Facebook page, Sundays with the Bushes. Thank you for all the likes, emails, shares, support. We really appreciate genuine support. We're trying to do something positive. And we want to continue to do that. So it helps us when people give us feedback. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's been emailing us, asking us questions. We've been giving out advice and all those things. Once again, we are not doctors. We are not certified in any way.
Not yet.
Not yet. But one thing we have under our belt is experience during this different time of dating.
Absolutely.
And being married, because this is not like the old days. This is a new thing.
This is a new thing.
Okay.
And I forgot to do it last week, but because you joined, want to give a big shout out to our family, Kalika and Aaron, on their engagement. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and we just want to celebrate with them. And celebrate them and just...
Kalika and Aaron. You have to say both of their names.
I said Kalika and Aaron.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Because you're not listening to me. Anyway, Kalika and Aaron, we just want to celebrate you all because this is what we're here for. This is what we created this forum to kind of give advice, kind of give wisdom, but to also celebrate those who are in our group and those who watch Sundays with the Bushes, just to celebrate the steps that we're taking and trying to be more strategic as it pertains to our relationships. So we're excited about that.
Yes.
All right.
Once again, congratulations.
Congrats.
Aaron and Kalika, we wish you the best, and we are going to be celebrating you guys through all the celebrations. But what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about problems in dating.
Problems in dating.
We know that there's a lot of problems in dating.
We didn't cover everything last week. For those of you who know my background, we do a lot of public speaking, we do a lot of preaching in churches and things like that. Sundays with the Bushes work for me. My man watched 2 episodes and
and put a ring on it.
That, you know what, we gotta just shoot a commercial, all right? Because if we can guarantee that for everybody, I think this thing will get big. But no, we didn't get a chance to get to all of the problems in dating last week because the conversation got it was a good conversation. We were talking about some things that are important when entering into a dating relationship, and we kind of want to touch on that again this week because we didn't get through everything. Oh, that's what I was saying. I like to outline. I like to have my bullet points. I like to have things that I touch on. So every episode we have an itinerary, but a lot of times the conversation takes us away from that itinerary.
Right.
And that's what happened last week. So we're going to continue talking about problems in dating, and hopefully we'll get through it this week.
Oh, before we start, because we did one shout out, but we forgot our other one.
Oh, yeah.
Our other shout out is to Fusion.
Fusion
Invited us to talk with them about Sundays with the Bushes. and all of our dating and relationship tips and how to keep it godly and all those things. And we had such a great time with them.
We actually did, and I think, yeah. Sister Gibson from Fusion is with us today. Looking forward to your. Absolutely, we had such a great time with you guys at Fusion on Tuesday. We thank Brother West for the invite. It was just a blessing to come there and share with you guys and hear the perspectives that you all have, and just being able to share with you all regarding purpose and dating and relationships and things like that. It was a great experience. So all of our Fusion family, we shout you out right now.
Thanks for inviting us. We had a great time there.
Absolutely. And while we're doing shout outs, we spent some time with Bishop Jerkins, our pop-up, and he was talking about how he really enjoys the show, and it's an encouragement because he is someone who's seasoned in ministry across the board.
They've been married for 51 or 52
Absolutely.
years.
And he's been preaching for over 50 years. So for him to,
actually, what he said is, he liked us because we gave I forget, something wisdom. What was it? Practical wisdom. We use practical wisdom in dating and relationships. So he thought it was a great thing. So I told him that I would shout him out and let him know that it meant a lot to us to have someone as seasoned as him say that we were doing a great job, and that really encouraged us.
Absolutely. And we're just excited about what's going on. We're going to have them. He's reluctant to come on the show, but we're going to have him on the show. I'm just saying that, all right?
Yes, First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens Young Adult Fusion Ministry meets 2 times per month.
All right?
Okay, so if you're interested in going to our church and being a part of Fusion, you're young and want to be a part of that, is that every Tuesday?
Yeah.
Just type in if that's every Tuesday, but they meet twice a month, and it's a great ministry. Brother Absolutely. West, I believe he heads it up. He's a great brother, newly married, and also a minister in training and all that. So that's great.
All right, so let us know how to get in touch with Fusion, and we'll make sure that we put that out there. All right, so today we're going to go back into problems in dating relationships. All right? Okay, real quick. First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens is located on 771 Somerset Street in Somerset, New Jersey. And those of you who are interested in the Fusion ministry, in September it will be 2nd and 3rd Mondays. And when you get to the church, all you have to do is tell the person in the narthex or the lobby or the foyer or whatever you want to call it, just tell them that you're there for Fusion and he'll direct you there, all right? In Somerset, New Jersey. So if you're in that area, and even especially if you're in that area on Monday nights, take a drive out there and just be a part of that, because they don't just talk about dating and relationships. They talk about the kingdom. They talk about Christ. They have a great liturgy going on over there. All right? So,
with that being said,
problems in dating relationships. First thing we talked about was if you're mature enough to be in a dating relationship. Because not everybody is mature. Not everybody is mature enough to be in a dating relationship. And when their relationships break down, a lot of times they want to blame other people. They want to blame the situation. They want to say he was crazy or she was out of her mind. But sometimes the breakdown is because we're not mature enough to be in a relationship.
Right.
In any relationship, in any partnership, there is going to be sacrifice. And if you're unwilling to sacrifice, then you're probably not ready to be in a relationship. You have to gauge where you are mentally, spiritually, and emotionally before you get into a relationship, because otherwise you will be in a relationship but it will not be functional, it will not be healthy. So the first problem in dating relationships is our own perspective on relationships as a whole. If you think it's all about your partner conforming to what you want to do, you got the wrong idea. You know, if you are unable to filter through your emotions to find what is right and true, you're probably not ready for a relationship. If you think that your perspective is the only right perspective, you're not ready for a relationship. All right? And most of all, if you're unable to agree to disagree, then you're not ready for a relationship. A relationship is a partnership between two people and two perspectives. You're not going to see eye to eye on everything, but you have to understand that as long as your morals and your values and your aspirations align, then you can have a fully functional relationship while maintaining whether or not, you know, Coming to America is the best movie ever. You know what I mean? You're not going to agree on everything. You may love Coming to America, but
or you may love Aaron Neville.
You feel me? Come on, man.
He's terrible.
What's crazy is after the show last week, I started singing like Aaron Neville. Couldn't stop. It was just in my spirit.
Just annoying.
But she brought it up.
No, he likes to annoy me sometimes.
No. The second thing that we talked about was identifying your relationship. And that's an important part of dating with purpose and being in functional and successful relationships. It is all about identifying your relationship. Once you find that that person is dateable, you want to make sure that you say, okay, are we mutually moving into exclusivity?
It has to be mutual.
It has to be mutual. And it has to be identified. And the biggest problem with dating with purpose is people not being able to identify their relationship.
Right.
You can't date with purpose and don't know what your purpose is.
Right.
You know, and I sent out I posted a picture on our Facebook page, and it kind of said that when you don't identify your relationship, you don't know your roles. You don't know what role you're supposed to play. When you can't identify your relationship, you're going to have girlfriends who are going to act like wives and want to be treated like wives. You're going to have baby moms acting like girlfriends. You're going to have, ex-boyfriends acting like current boyfriends. When you don't identify the relationship, which includes creating boundaries, letting them know where you stand, being open and honest, then it's always going to be a bunch of confusion.
Communication is the biggest. A lot of people suffer in their relationships because there's absolutely no communication. If you know that you're just kind of getting to know someone, don't put a title on it without that being a mutual agreement. I mean, women more than men do that. A lot of times women will go out on a date with a guy a couple times, and you'll be like, girl, how was your day? Girl, my boyfriend, he crazy. Well, first of all, did he say that y'all was boyfriend and girlfriend? Because just because a guy is taking you out on a date does not mean that he's ready for a life commitment with you.
You got to keep those things identified.
You need to make sure that, even if you're dating somebody consistently, some people date people consistently for months. I'm just getting to know each other and still kind of put a title on it without it being a mutual thing, and then they end up getting their heart.
Yeah. Because there was no identity to the relationship. And I gave the analogy of a company or a business stating what their mission is. Businesses have mission statements so it can keep them on task. You know what I mean? So that if you know that you're not in an exclusive dating relationship, then you're not going to waste your time on exclusive dating relationship activities. If you are not married, then women, you should not be doing the job of a wife. You should let him know in the way you carry yourself, in the way you present your apartment or your house, that you have
I don't know if you should be in somebody's apartment.
Well, I'm just saying, you stop over you stop over to come get them to take them out, your house should be clean.
Right.
You don't want a nasty house,
Right.
because that doesn't say wife. That says something
What
else.
does it say?
I don't know what it says, but it don't say.
It
It's
says
not
that she's trifling.
not the kind of wife I want. Now maybe if the man likes trifling, maybe if his house is as bad as your house, y'all can
Come
be hoarders together.
Come together and be hoarders.
Exactly. But you want to make sure that you present yourself, even men, as a husband. Husbands protect, they provide. The husband acts as the priest for his family. So to show your wife, to show your girlfriend that you have husband qualities, you want to make sure that you are doing those things that husbands do, but not necessarily for her.
Right.
So if you want to let her know that you're going to be the priest of your house, you need to make sure that you're in church. You need to make sure that you're in your word. You need to make sure that you're you need to make sure that you're doing those things that a husband should do. All right? So identify your relationship. I don't want to spend too much time there, because identifying your relationship, that's a book in and of itself.
Yes.
All right, but what we want to talk about today is communication. That's the biggest problem in relationship. The biggest problem in relationships is communication. In any relationship, family, friends, but especially in marital or dating relationships, communication. Brothers, communication. Sisters, communication. What does communication mean, though? What is communication supposed to accomplish in a relationship?
Well, to me, it's supposed to help both people come together and be open with one another. That way, you're able to function in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one person that is communicating and the other person isn't communicating, then that's not communication.
Exactly.
Communication is an open moment between both parties, so that you both can say, okay, here's my issue, or here am I, here's my issues, and then you're able to put things out on the table. If you're telling a guy, like, look, I really kind of like you, what do you think is going to happen from this? And then they also need to be like, look, right now I'm just not looking for someone. Or they need to say, you know what, I'm looking to seriously, date someone or whatever. So that you kind of both are in agreement as to where you're going. But if you're going into dating with someone and you're going in with a serious intention and they're not, that's not good communication. Because then that, over time, that's just playing games. Is really what it is.
Absolutely. It has no purpose, and it has no destination. And we were talking about, with the fusion class on Tuesday, as a matter of fact, about how relationships, the dating relationship is a vehicle to get you from single to married. The dating relationship
is for no other reason.
No other reason but to get you from single to married. The problem with a lot of people is they get too caught up in the car. They get too caught up in the vehicle that they never make it to their destination. When you step out of your house to get in your car, you know where you're going before you leave the house. When you get in your car, you're like, okay, I'm on my way to church, or I'm on my way to work, or I'm on my way to the grocery store, or I'm going to visit one of my family members. Before you get into a relationship, you have to know that dating is a temporary state of being that gets me from single to married.
Right.
So in a relationship, you have to make sure that you are both on the same page as it pertains to the purpose of the dating relationship. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things in communication. Identifying the relationship and communication go hand in hand.
I just believe that dating is not meant to be a long-term thing. yes, you should take your time before you actually get into like the serious dating. But dating is not meant for, 7 years of dating. Listen, if you don't know you want to marry that person, and that person don't know they want to marry you within a certain amount of time, you're just, to me, you should start dating other people.
Absolutely.
Because there's no point of holding on to something. And I'm talking about grown adults.
Absolutely.
You know.
And the thing is, like you just said, the longest part of any relationship between introduction and marriage should be that getting to know
right. I
part.
Totally agree.
So when you meet somebody, before you get exclusive, before you get swept away in your emotions and your attraction to each other, yep, you should sit down and begin to have conversations. No romance tied to it at all. Meet for lunch, not for dinner.
Right.
Dinner is a little more intimate. Go,
That's a good point, because I think a lot of people get stuck there, and that's why people, put titles on a relationship before there's even any communication, because you go out and you're getting intimate with people before you've even gotten to know them.
And that's
that puts an attachment on things.
Because remember,
especially for women, emotionally, now we're attached to this guy in a matter of days, and we met him, and then you're getting your groove on. That's not a good thing.
Well, remember the reason why we get to know people is because we want to know whether or not they're dateable.
Right.
So if you don't know that person, then you really shouldn't move to that next step until you know that person, And I'm pretty sure that you're not going to talk about, every single thing before you start dating.
Like my aunt said yesterday, she advises people to do background checks. Do background checks, get to know these people. Like I told her yesterday, at a certain age, if you're in your 50s and 60s and you're dating again, whether you've been married before or whether you've never been married and you're still single, that person in your age group is bound to have some miles. They're bound to have some things under their belt that you need to know about.
Absolutely.
So you need to definitely do your research about people before you get into serious relationships.
Absolutely. And that's why I always recommend that you should date somebody with whom you have a mutual friend. But I'm not saying that you can't do Match. I'm not saying you can't do Christian Mingle or any of the other dating sites.
It's actually a small world. So even if you meet somebody on those sites, there's ways. I mean, you'll be surprised how many. We say this all the time. How many people is it away from?
6 people.
6 people. You're 6 people
away from everybody in the world.
Everybody in the world.
So you should, and you look at your Facebook friends and things like that. When you find somebody that you are interested in, a lot of times your Facebook will tell you these are your mutual friends. Yep. And if you know those people, you should say, I'm kind of interested in X, Y, and Z.
What do you think about him or her?
What do you think about them? Do you know me and you know them? Right. What do you think about us together? Because you want to do as much research as possible because you don't want to waste any time.
Right.
You don't want to waste any time. And being in a dating relationship for an extended period of time is like a joyride. And the problem with a joyride, like I said, if dating is a vehicle to get you from single to married, if you're joyriding, there's no destination and you end up where you started. Mm-hmm. Every time you go for a joyride, you end up where you started. If I'm going for a leisure drive because I want to get out of the house, I'm going to go in the circle, I'm going to go down Route 1, I'm going to come back, but I'm going to end up where I started. And if you don't want to end up where you started, you got to make sure that before you get in that vehicle, you have a destination. Mm-hmm. You have a vehicle that is functioning properly.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I don't want to take this car analogy too deep, but you don't want to get in a hoopty. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that the car is going to get you to your destination. So that means hooking up and getting together with somebody can make it to that destination.
So what are some of the problems that we encounter when we're in the dating stage of a relationship?
Well, yeah, we're talking about communication.
Communication was the first one.
It was maturity, identifying
your
the
relationship,
and communication. And communication is the biggest because it kind of bleeds into all three of those.
Right.
I mean, all the other two.
I mean, that's the foundation of any relationship.
Yeah, because to know whether or not you're mature, you have to have a conversation with yourself. You need to be able to communicate truthfully with yourself. You know, you can't be in denial and say, I don't have no attitude, I don't have no issues. They're the problem, not me. No, come on. Everybody has issues.
Right.
You need to be able to communicate with yourself and say, look, goofy part of my psyche, look, we got some issues that we need to iron out just like they do. So communication with yourself, communication with your spouse, bleeds, or your significant other bleeds into identifying your relationship, because you can't do that unless you have conversations and communicate about where your relationship is. Don't be afraid to communicate in relationships, because communication breeds intimacy.
Right.
And that's what we're all looking for. A marriage relationship is the apex of an intimate relationship. There should be no closer relationship than a husband and wife, because we always talk about how the relationship between ourselves and God is likened to the marriage relationship for that fact.
Right.
We are intimate with our spouses. When we get married, we're intimate. And intimacy is not just a physical act. It is more a mental and spiritual and emotional act than it is a physical act. The word that the Bible used for, sex is no. So when Adam and Eve slept together, the Bible says that Adam knew his wife. Basically saying they slept together. And it's a great word because it speaks about you knowing them physically, you knowing them mentally, you knowing them emotionally. There's nothing that is hidden. And when you communicate, you take off masks. When you communicate, you open up your closets and let them see the skeletons, because the worst thing in a relationship is secrets. You don't want to have secrets. You need to be completely transparent. I'm not saying you need
Can't
to
keep no secrets around me, because I use my cat eye.
Snoop Dogg over here.
That's right. Ain't no secret. Ain't nothing getting by me.
But it's not even that you need to fish for secrets. You just should want to be open,
Right.
because communication breeds collaboration. We talk about it all the time. The Bible says, how can two walk together except they agree? You got to be on the same page. You got to know.
You agree if you don't communicate.
Exactly. If you don't know what her stance is, and she doesn't know what my stance is, how do we know that we're on the same page? Mm-hmm. Communication is key. And we're promoting positive communication.
Right.
Because there is negative communication.
Absolutely.
And some people think that negative communication is natural in relationships because it brings out truth.
Right.
Not so.
It forces truth.
It forces truth. But you don't want to have to force truth, because when you are in an argument, and the truth is going to come out in an argument, but it's not going to come out in love, it's going to come out with the intention to belittle, or the intention to hurt, and to do more damage, where you could tell your significant other, and we use this example in Fusion, you could say, I wish you would open up more. If you're having a positive conversation, I just wish you would open up to me more and let me know what you're thinking, and let me know how you feel about certain situations. But if you're in an argument, you so selfish, you always shut down, you just like your dad. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, that's hurtful. So we want to promote positive communication, and it has to come from inside you. It has to want to come from a place that is trying to expose who you are to your partner.
And you said, what if the other person is not willing to talk about it? So are we talking about a moment? Because if we're talking about a moment, sometimes people need time. Sometimes it's best for you to just... when I first got married, I was the type of girl at the time where as soon as we would get into an argument or something, I'd be like, we got to talk right now. Right now is the time to talk. you're not going to bed, you ain't sleeping well, we got to talk about this right now. But the older, more mature I got, I'm like, okay, maybe he needs a minute. Maybe I need a minute. Maybe I should just go in the other room, cool off, go downstairs or whatever, take a little drive, and then come back when we both have calmed down, and now we can have an actual conversation and use the communication tools that we've learned over the years to really get through whatever the problem is.
Absolutely.
So that works not in the moment, just period. They just want to talk. They just don't want to talk about it. It's not a topic of discussion. Well, listen.
Excuse me.
Most of the time, when you're dating someone, you will see that they may not, be a communicator. If that's not something that you can do, there are some women who are in relationships with men that don't communicate at all, and they're okay with that. But if you're the type of woman who needs communication, first of all, relationships need communication. That's just the bottom line. That's just what it is. So if that person is not willing to communicate while you're dating, it's going to be harder to get that person to communicate in a marriage. And marriage is on another level. See, dating, you're communicating about, oh, when I get married, this, and when we get married, we should do, and X, Y, and Z. But when you're married, now you're communicating about finances, about children, about your relationship, about intimacy. And it's you have to be able to communicate, because if you don't communicate, that person, and as well as you, need to be able to communicate. So I just don't think that's almost a deal breaker. If a person is just not willing to communicate, that's kind of a red flag, because you can already foresee, like, okay, now we know the challenges that come with marriage. I don't care how much you're in love with somebody. I love my husband. And anybody who knows me knows ride or die is not even good enough. You know how I am about my husband, right? But there are times when he does get on my nerves, and I have to communicate to him that he's getting on my nerves, So no relationship is going to be perfect, but there are those seasons, as TD Jakes says, where you are in a relationship where sometimes it's not the person, but it's life. Sometimes life beats us down, and we're not really feeling that other person in our space and all that. So you go through those seasons in your marriage, and if you get with somebody who's not communicating in the dating season, they're not going to communicate in the marriage season, which makes it hard for you guys to have a successful relationship.
Yeah, and if you understand that communication is the key to intimacy.
Welcome back.
Thank you. The communication is the key to intimacy, then you know that unless they begin to communicate, you will never reach the level of intimacy to have a functional relationship. So you want to make sure that you are, and not just a specific topic, because there are some things that it's going to take ages for them to talk about.
Right.
If there was, something in their past, if there was some type of abuse or anything in their past, sometimes they shut down to that one specific topic.
Right.
So if it's not one specific topic, but they just don't want to talk about anything, then you have to, question and assess the level of intimacy that you guys can get to without having that conversation.
As we said in our other videos, relationships, marriage, that's because we're talking about dating with purpose, is our whole thing. So that means if you're dating, that means you're dating with the intention to get married. And marriage is work. It is work. It is not an easy thing. I'm here to tell you, whether you're young or whether you're old, marriage is continuous work, because you're getting to know. Tyrus is 31 years old. I'm getting to know him as a 31-year-old man, but when I met him, he was 20 years old. So, he's not the same person. We had to continuously grow together. So that means we have to continue, over the years, we had to continue to communicate to get to 10 years.
Absolutely. And I always say that dating with purpose is a consistent pursuit. You know what I mean? Once you identify the relationship that you're in due time, you're going to have to re-identify it. You know, I'm not saying every time something happens, you like, you know, what are we right now? You know what I mean?
You want a divorce?
Yeah. And I'm not saying every time, you know, he's not in the mood to
talk.
Or, you know, he's not as bubbly or she's not as humorous as she usually is to say, well, do you like me anymore or anything? I'm not saying go to that extreme, but every once in a while you have to re-identify your relationship. Or, you know, we're still dating, we're still in an exclusive relationship. Are we still ready to move forward to that next place? Mm-hmm. Because you need to know your role. Because, like I said, the role of a girlfriend is not the same as the role of a fiance. And the role of a fiance is not the same as the role of a wife. Nope. The role of a husband is not the same as the role of a boyfriend. The role of a baby mom is not the same as the role of a girlfriend. Now, we use the word baby mom because it distances you from an intimate relationship. So that is your child's mother, but it's not necessarily the person that you're spending your life with.
Right.
You know, so make sure, and this is something that's been going down for a long time, and it needs to be addressed about this whole baby mom, baby dad situation. You had a child together. You were in a relationship that you didn't properly assess.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it didn't pan out the way that you intended it to pan out.
Right. But you guys had a child.
But
together.
Once you guys are not together, mm-hmm. you are not together.
Right.
There are no romantic ties.
The child does not tie you romantically.
The child does not tie you. I don't care if I have 13 kids by a specific woman. Mm-hmm. When I move on and I get married to my wife is my wife. And my baby mom is not my wife.
Let me just plug in. I have all his children.
Yeah, she got all my babies.
Let's put that out there.
All my babies. We ain't never been to Maury or none of that. But I'm just saying, you know, I see a lot of guys who are in relationships, but they have this overwhelming, and I'm using the word overwhelming specifically, an overwhelming loyalty to their baby mom where they have to choose between their wife or their fiance or their girlfriend and their baby mom. No, there should never be a choice. It's never.
Thank you, Wes.
It should never be a choice.
Just to be clear, put that out there.
You should never have to choose between your significant other and somebody that, you know, and hopefully the woman or man who is your baby's parent. I hate the whole
baby mama.
Who is your child's parent? I hope that they're mature enough to know, okay, that person is with somebody else. You know, this relationship that we have is only for the benefit of the child. So we co-parent. We should be able to talk. We should be able to plan. We should be able to strategize together for the sake of the child. But his household and her household should not be in question every time we get together.
Right.
You know, it's a weird situation, but you have to understand that when you are in a relationship, there is exclusivity. No matter how many kids you have with that person, this relationship is exclusive. You're not emotionally involved in that way with anybody else. So that
goes back to what I said our first video about. That's what I'm saying. Titles give power.
Absolutely.
And that whole baby mama, that is your child's mother or your child's father. But those titles, they keep you tied to people. And I just wish people would get that. Leave those titles and those X and that, all that stuff, leave that aside.
Re-identify the relationship.
Right, because that's the role is not.
Exactly. That's, you know, I mean, it's a mouthful, but you say, oh, you know, that's my son's
little Pookie's mama.
That's my son's biological mother. You know what I mean? Or whatever the situation is, but we give too much, and there's an ownership. You know, a lot of the guys that I talk to, and I tell this to them, and for those of you who I've had the conversation with, you can completely agree to this. You know, she doesn't owe you anything emotionally. You know, you can't just walk into her house. You can't tell her what to do with her things. You know, if you guys are not together, then your relationship is strictly about raising your child together.
That's right.
So be able to communicate.
And your children are not to be used
as leverage.
In the relationship that you want to happen, or because you're mad about how the relationship went. I mean, there's nothing that burns me up more than to see silly women use their children against the person that they were once with. Your child, it has nothing to do with the relationship you had with that person.
Absolutely.
Nothing to do.
Absolutely. And my thing, there's a reason why you two are not together. You know?
Didn't work.
So accept the fact that the relationship did not work and move on. You know? Because at the end of the day, the child is going to suffer. You two individually are going to suffer because you guys are in that vehicle going in circles. You're never making any progress. I know people who have been dealing with this situation since their child was an infant and now they're a teenager, and they're still going through the same circle. And it's all about trying to manipulate somebody into a relationship. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. If somebody is opposed to being in a relationship, if somebody is opposed to identifying and saying, this is my girlfriend, this is my fiance, this is my wife, or this is my husband or boyfriend, if they're opposed to that, move on. Yep. Stop wasting time on projects and on people who don't want to be fixed.
They don't.
You're wasting so much time chasing after somebody who's running, and you got people chasing you, but you're so focused on, you know, the knucklehead or the person that you want, that you're missing out on the blessings that God is trying to give you. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just something. It wasn't on the notes, but it's just something that I feel is something that we need to address.
Yep.
We got a comment that always seems to be one of the main problems in relationships. Communication seems to be one-sided a lot of times. I know everybody has things they choose to deal with in a relationship, but, you know, I think there's more. But not having communication is a no-go. I don't understand how that can even work. Absolutely. Communication is key. Communication is key.
Sorry, guys.
You know, without communication, you guys can't stay on the same level.
And you can't grow together.
Shaone, yeah. And that's exactly what I was about to say. We on the same. We here. We here.
I don't know how we got here.
I don't know how we got here.
Never been here before.
No, but this is exactly what I was about to say. You can't grow together. We have been married for 10 years, and I'm not the same person that I was when I was 21, because different experiences in my life have changed my perspective on certain things. You know, different experiences in her life have changed who she is. And the longer we live and the more we experience, the more we're going to change. But as long as you're communicating with the person you're involved with, you can grow together. You know, I use the mundane example of cereal. Now, I love Frosted Flakes, you know, and this is something my mom used to do.
A lot of cereal.
I love cereal in general. This is something my mom used to do, and it's an example of how we change. So I'll tell my mom, or I'll tell Shay, I love Frosted Flakes. So they'll go out to Sam's and they'll go out to the grocery store and buy 1,000 boxes of Frosted Flakes. So and I'm eating it for a while, but after a while I'm tired of Frosted Flakes. And they'll bring another box through the door. I'm like, Frosted Flakes again? You know, it's not that, you know, they were wrong for bringing Frosted Flakes. It's just that I didn't communicate to them when my preference had changed.
Right.
You know, so if I can communicate to them like, yeah, I like Frosted Flakes, but, you know, I'm kind of getting tired of it. So the next time she goes shopping, she don't come through the house with Frosted Flakes. And I'm like, listen here. You bring another box of Frosted Flakes through this window, you and the Frosted Flakes is going out.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what communication is about, and we just had a conversation with somebody today that they're in a relationship and they begin to talk about different things that they want to achieve in life, and found that their perspectives were polar opposites. So even though they had attraction, even though they were emotionally attached, even though they wanted to
might have potential.
Exactly, pursue a romantic relationship, they
two separately different things.
Exactly, and they date because they're dating with purpose. They were mature enough to say, you know what, as much as we want this, we just got to go our separate ways. And God has somebody out there for us who is going to be our partner. My thing is, of all of the people that I've dated and even the people I've been interested in, I don't think where my life is going, they couldn't handle this life. They couldn't handle the pressure of the life that I live now. What I do in church. I dated some, I dated some people who, I know that this was not what they had in mind for their life, and they couldn't.
They don't want to come to Jesus.
They couldn't flow with it.
Just now.
So it's not a bad thing, but it's just that if I spent too much time trying to pursue them, I wouldn't have found Shay, who is the support that keeps me going on in this vein where God wants me to go. So, be mature about this whole thing.
I did that.
Communicate with your significant other and let them know where you are, and just get intimate with each other. And that's the Lord just gave me this. What? Different degrees of intimacy. The only intimacy that you should share before you get married is mental and emotional intimacy. So no physical intimacy before you get married.
Right, we know that.
And there's a reason for that. This is why the Bible lays things out for us.
So why?
Because when you get to know somebody on an intimate level, mentally and emotionally, it makes the physical aspect much better. Because I hear a lot of people, and I'm about to get PG-13, so if there's some kids in the room, tell them to scoot on. So a lot of people say, look, I got to test the waters before I get into, I need to figure this thing out, because what if they got something I don't like? My thing is, what you find is that when you're connecting on a mental and emotional level, that physical will only be enhanced. It will only be enhanced. So even if it's not what
once you connect on all
exactly, even if it's what you thought you wouldn't like, I'm talking about anatomically. When you get to that point, you're going to be so mentally intimate with that person that the physical is going to be gratifying regardless. That's an issue, because we are living in a day where it's different. We live in a different age, and we talked about that yesterday with the family. We live in a different age. So the strategies that we used to have in dating relationships and marriage relationships, we got to update that, because physically intimate relationships are way more acceptable now than they were years ago.
Right.
And it's precisely because people are afraid that they're going to get into a marriage relationship and the physical aspect not be what they want it to be. But I'm telling y'all, especially for women, and I'm talking to the brothers right now, intimacy up here for women will always trump physical intimacy. If you can, and this is, something that, I was reading a relationship book, and the guy was talking about, if you stimulate her mind, her intellect, and her spiritual and her emotional aspect, it will be no problem stimulating her physical,
This is true.
So, I don't usually go there, but I just got that. It just clicked.
He's saying that's why you should wait.
That's why you should wait. You should spend more time focusing on becoming intimate spiritually and emotionally before you come together physically. Because once the spirit is in alignment, the physical is going to flow. If you know anything about the spirit, I don't want to get too mystical and too biblical, because I want everybody, even if you're not a Christian, to be able to get something from this conversation. But anything that happens in the physical has already happened in the spiritual. It says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. The will of God is already being done in heaven, in the spirit realm. But on earth, we want to see it manifest. So if you get that spiritual intimacy in alignment, the physical intimacy will follow. It will flow, and you will be satisfied.
Once that time comes.
Once that time comes.
Which is marriage.
That's why you should wait. Because when y'all can connect on that level, I'm telling you, that's why a lot of people...
And you know what, too? I have to add this, because I think that was great, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to say this, but I think that that's another reason why some women are not having successful relationships, because they're putting in too much of the physical, and they're not connecting with these men on a spiritual and emotional level, and therefore they're not. It just becomes a big mess.
Absolutely.
It just becomes a big mess. So you figure if you're physically attracted to someone and you jump into that first, then your relationship becomes only physical.
And that's the problem. And
then you can't. There's no way that you can really evaluate what you really have. You can't even really say, okay, like, really, does he have potential? Because your relationship is based on the physical.
It's based on the physical. And when the physical becomes, and the problem is you can't fix the physical. You can't fix the physical. The problem with physical is that every day it's deteriorating. Every day is getting a little worse. It's getting a little, we got to work harder than we ever did before. The physical is always deteriorating, but you can always abound and you can always grow in the areas of the spiritual and the emotional aspect, So a lot of people are too much focused on the physical aspect, and that's why relationships aren't lasting, because people get tired of the physical, because the physical don't change in a good way. I know that you can
absolutely.
The physical obscures your true judgment. Absolutely. Because a lot of times we're so focused on the physical.
It's a distraction from other things that you need to see about that person. And that's why we're not supposed to be getting into all that, parts of the relationship.
It's so crazy. As much as we study this and, meditate on this, I just got that.
And I know, for me and Tyrus, when we started dating, honestly, we didn't go on our first actual, face-to-face date for, a month. We talked on the phone.
Yep.
For, when I say hours, I'm talking about from sun down to sun up.
All night.
And we did not only, we definitely had a lot in common musically, because I came from a musical family. Our comedy, our humor was the same, so we did a lot of laughing, a lot of talking about movies and shows, because we both loved movies and watching TV. But we also both were very spiritual, so we talked about that. But then we talked about just regular things, about what we wanted in life, how many kids we wanted, what we wanted to do with our life, what were our goals, what made us happy, what made us sad. We talked about our families. We talked about these things for hours and hours and hours and hours. So the first time I actually had a date with him, I felt like I knew him. It wasn't like, okay, this is awkward.
Mm-hmm.
We had talked so much and knew so much about each other. To this day, all of our couple friends hate playing taboo with us. They hate it. They hate it because we know we can say one little thing to each other, and before they be like, "How you ain't even finished your sentence?"
I'm like, blue butt. She'll get it. They like, "Yo, how do y'all get?" And it's just because that's communication.
That's right. Because we spend, and I'm not saying that we haven't had to jump over some communication hurdles over the years, but what I'm saying is we spend so much time. We don't go out to dinner and be like, I wonder what the kids is doing. No, we go out to dinner. We talk about our life. We talk about, look, honey, what have we done over the years? Okay, now what do we do? What do we think we're gonna be doing in 10 years? Okay, there have been times when me and my husband have been seen out with notebooks, writing stuff down. Like, okay, what's our plan? What we gonna do? How we gonna make that come to life? And I think that's why
we have business meetings.
Right. So I'm saying that's why we've learned over the years that communication is key in any stage of your dating. Communication is key, but it also does change as your relationship changes.
Absolutely. And see, and the problem is, instead of communication, you know, we jump to that physical aspect. You know, it's just like after an argument, you don't communicate to make up.
Right.
You do something else to make up. No, that's not it.
Setup.
It's a setup.
Because and then when you encounter that same situation, and I'm talking about in marriage, because that's where you're supposed to be physically intimate. Okay. But I'm saying, you know, in a relationship, you say, oh, okay, well, this is how we're gonna make up. But then the next weekend, y'all having the same, y'all wondering why y'all just trying to have date night and y'all arguing the whole time. But it's because there was no real communication. You really didn't deal with the problem and the issue.
Exactly.
So therefore, you can't really enjoy each other.
You can't, and that you to really heighten all of the successes in one's relationship, you really have to have that communication. And that's a great example that you gave about taboo. You know a person when you can get into that taboo game and kill them. You feel me? It's like, one of my we talked about Aaron and Kalika getting engaged. Aaron is my god brother, and we practically grew up as brothers. We really did. I was like over his house. His house was my second home. You feel me? So he and I know each other like that. Like, I can look at Aaron and he knows exactly what I'm thinking. And the same thing with Shay. Now, we haven't known each other as long as Aaron, but because we communicate so often, I can look at her, and we do it in church all the time when we need to stop. But so I could look at her in church like, and she knows exactly what I'm saying. Yep. She knows how I'm saying it.
Matter of fact, the other day he sent me an emoji. That's all he sent me. We had it. He went somewhere and I was somewhere else. I was in the car and he sent me an emoji. And I knew exactly what it meant. I wrote him back and was like, X, Y, and Z. He was like, yes. Like, so it's like that kind of communication where you don't have to use words. Because you know each other so much, because you spend so much time talking and growing together. It's
like on Bridesmaids, where they were going back and forth with, they were at her bridal shower.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, I know her so much that we could just communicate with a look. And she was like, and the girl was like, what? But,
right.
It's like that. And it's not that we don't have arguments or we don't have issues. It's not like we don't, have problems, and it's not like some things aren't hard to talk about. There are some situations that we experience and things that I've experienced in my life where it's hard for me to talk about it because and it's not even about her. And this is what a lot of you have to understand too. It's sometimes when they're unwilling to communicate, it's not about you, it's about them, because when they say it out loud, it makes it more true. It makes it real. So it's a difficult situation. But, we're drawing to a close. It's 8 o'clock. And we're going to begin to wind down. But this communication conversation is something that we need to continue. So maybe we'll start next week with it. I want to make everybody aware that there are only 2 more episodes of Sundays with the Bushes for this season. All right? So this is not the end of what we're doing. but this is just the end of this season. So we're going to take a few weeks off. We're going to prepare some more things. We're going to make the production a little better to bring you guys a more consistent and a more professional presentation, so that, you know, like this light right now is killing me.
So it will be next Sunday and the Sunday after that, and then we're going to be on break, and then we're coming back.
And then we're going to come back. And this is what's going to happen in next season. We got some great stuff planned for you guys. We got some great stuff in store for you guys. And we're going to make this thing more interactive, and we're going to bring it to another level. We want to really enlarge the community that we've kind of created here, and we want you all to meet each other. So everybody who watches this, everybody who logs on, we want to kind of create a forum where you guys can meet each other and talk to each other. Maybe there are some guys who are on here who want to date with purpose, and maybe there are some girls on here who want to date with purpose, and maybe we can get y'all together. You know, we're not Christian Mingle, we're not Match.com, but you know what?
But
we do what we can do.
You know, I arrange a couple relationships. That's all I can say.
She got a couple of relationships under her belt, and like Kalika said, Sundays with the Bushes work for her. So if it can work for her, it can work for you. So we got some things coming up in the fall. We have a big event that we're planning for next year. So we want all of you to be a part of it, because we want to make sure that one of the things that is problematic about relationships is because we're never properly instructed on how to be in relationships.
Right.
We go to school, we learn about math, we learn about English. That's basically finance, that's basically communication. Social studies is a history and all of those type of things, but we never learn in class how we should interact with people and function in dating relationships and marriage relationships. And the problem is we learn by example from people who don't know what they're doing. They're just going through the motions. They're letting the relationship play out. So we want to make sure that we can, you know, kind of bring to light a curriculum of sorts that is pieced together from what you know and from what we know, to kind of let people out there know how to do this thing properly.
Yes.
And to have functional relationships, because functional marriages bring and breed functional children, and those functional children are what's going to change our society and make Donald Trump ain't going to make America great again. This is what's going to make America great again, when we can get husbands and wives and people to really come together.
Because they don't want you to have good relationships.
They don't. Where you at, DJ Khaled? They don't want you to have good relationships. They don't want you
in good, healthy
relationships. They want you to break up.
But what we gonna do?
We gonna stay married. We gonna date with purpose. We gonna do what the Lord says do. So we love all of y'all.
And before we log off, I just want to say, like I said in the beginning, thank you to everybody. Everybody who joined our Facebook page, liked it, emailed us from there. The email works great. Thank you. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting all of the videos since day one. We've had collectively over 3,000 views, and we thank you for the support. Keep sharing, keep liking, so that other people can be inspired. And thank you for people who just see us in the streets, whether at church or family members who have been encouraging us to keep going. We really appreciate that.
Share.
And use the hashtag.
Everybody who's on here right now, please, just
repost
share
the video.
It. Just share it. You know what I mean? Next season, we're going to get more, and we're going to invest some money into this situation. But right now, we haven't invested any money. So just share right now, so that we can reach more people than we're reaching right now, and so that we can, like I said, grow this community, so that we can make the world great again.
All right, we gotta go.
Amen. Love ya.
Bye.